Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tallink Grupp's quarterly webinar. My name is Joonas Joost, and I'm in charge of investor relations at Tallink Grupp. And today we have here our CEO, Paavo Nõgene, and Harri Hanschmidt, who is a member of the management board. And our financial director, Veiko Haavapuu, is actually joining us from abroad. Many thanks to all the participants who have already submitted their questions prior to the webinar, and we'll be addressing those during and or at the end of the presentation in the Q&A part of the webinar. And also it is possible to ask questions during the webinar. And if you'd like to ask the questions, then please write those in the question box, which you should see on the right side of your screens. And we'll be addressing those questions also in the end at the Q&A part of the presentation. So that actually concludes the householding information. And now I would like to pass on the microphone to our CEO, Paavo Nõgene.
Good afternoon. My name is Paavo Nõgene, and happy to join this webinar today. I will give you an overview from our latest or current doings and Q4 highlights and key facts. But first of all, Tallink Grupp stays the same as it has been. Also, last time we operating 14 vessels in 7 ferry routes, operating 4 hotels, and our revenue in 2019 was approximately the same as year before, 949 million euros. 600,000 less compared with 2018, but due to the fact that during the first quarter 7 vessels were in dry dock, and some of them for a very long period, example Baltic Queen for 44 days. In that case, to achieve the same amount of same revenue as 2018, we see it is actually quite good result for 2019. Our asset base is 1.5 billion euros. We had average 7,200 employees during the 2019, and they served 9.8 million passengers, which was slightly over the 2018 result, around 7,000 passengers more. And again, if you take into account the fact that the 7 vessels were in dock, in that case, reaching the same number of passengers were quite good achievement. And our loyalty program, Club One, have now already 2.7 million clients or members, and we transported around 380,000 cargo units last year. Some key facts. We did new full year passenger record in 2019, and we are happy also about that during the summer there were first time in history 3 months in a row where we transported more than 1 million passengers each month. We had some impact from the different strikes in Finland for Q4 result. Example, there was a long government-owned post office workers strike, which had negative impact to us in December, because long period some Club One members loyalty program discount coupons and advertisings were in post office longer than expected, and the people didn't get them on time. But we have seen that yes, Q4 December we saw some negative impact, but actually this turned, or this positive impact moved to the beginning of 2020. We did in the Q4 still the highest net profit in the last 5 years. We signed 60 million revolving credit facility with floating rate and 4-year maturity, and we did capital reduction payment 47 million to our investors, which was 7 cents per share. We established our new subsidiaries for Burger King operations in Lithuania and Latvia, and we named our new LNG powered fast ferry, which will be ready beginning of 2022 with name as MyStar. And now I will give over to Harri, and later on I'm also giving some more information.
Thank you, Paavo. Hello from my side. My name is Harri Hanschmidt. I'm a board member for Tallink Grupp, and I will talk a little bit more in detail about the Q4 results of our financial year. So, as Paavo mentioned, we had a pretty good quarter. We also, I would like to highlight, managed to increase our passenger number by 0.9%, bringing the number nearly to 3 million passengers transported in the Q4 of 2019. At the same time, though, we saw continuing trend of drop of cargo units. The passenger car numbers were up by 0.4%. The revenue was, despite the decline in cargo, on the same level as last year, and we saw improvement in profitability, starting from the gross profit level down to the net profit level, and this is we can see this strong improvement in operating results, and this is due to a lower fuel cost, general lower fuel prices, also favorable level of hedging or fixing the fuel price. Also strong cost control, group-wide centralized procurement activities, business optimization projects, and automation of certain activities. On the next slide, we can see our quarterly seasonality breakdown. Last year was quite regular in that way that we managed to increase our passenger number slightly, but ended up pretty much on the same level as last year with 9.8 million passengers. The revenue was also on the same level with 949 million euros and a slight drop in cargo units. EBITDA level, we are up, and then the total EBITDA was 171 million euros, but there was also some IFRS 16 effects increased due to the IFRS 16, but the comparable levels were still in the fourth quarter up over 20%. So on page 7, we can see on the net profit level, we had a very good year, 1 million net profit. Right now, we are reporting not a high quarter.
It seems we are having some technical difficulties. It seems we're having some technical difficulties with sound. And okay, I can. Okay. Do we have our sound back? Okay. Veiko, if you would take over maybe from the revenue development side now.
Yes, thank you, Jonas. So my name is Veiko Haavapuu. I'm the Financial Director of Tallink Grupp, and we'll give you overview of financials for the Q4 and also for some 2019 numbers. So on slide 8, we have the revenue overview by the operating segments. And here we see that the revenue for the Q4 2019 is on quite comparable level to the last year, same period. At the same time, we see some fluctuations in specific operating segments, naming the restaurant and shop sales revenue is up close to 4 million euros, and that is following the increase of the passenger number in Q4. And also here we see some positive effect year on year on the shops on land, specifically the pre-order sales related to the ships, and also the port area discounters revenue increase. The ticket sales is slightly down from Q4 last year. Just to comment here that continuously strong pressure on the ticket prices, and that's the level we have to cope with. Also, the cargo transportation is down by 3.1 million euros, and that is following the downturn of the cargo volumes close to 5% in Q4 this year. Accommodation sales slightly down, mostly related to the absence of one hotel compared to last year until November. The revenue from the charters is slightly up as we have a slight change in the charter contract with better revenue generation. Going to the next slide. Here we see the overview of the geographical segments, mainly corresponding to specific routes. So the Estonia-Finland, challenging ticket prices, let's say, but very nice development on the onboard revenue, mainly from the shops. And of course, at the same time, we see a downturn of the cargo revenue. Then Estonia-Sweden, again, in general, quite good development on the passenger-related revenues, but again, here we see a minus coming from the cargo revenue. Latvia-Sweden, quite comparable level to the last year Q4. Here again, slightly lower ticket and of course cargo revenue as well, but the onboard again is developing quite well, specifically on the restaurant and bars side, following the change in the passenger mix, so more cruise passengers on Latvian route. Finland, Sweden. Here we see some effect on the passenger side from the strikes in December. So therefore, slightly weaker revenue than we expected. But also here we see, especially from Turku-Stockholm route, some lower revenue from the cargo as well. The other segment is basically all other operations except the shipping operations, and this corresponds to the increase, more than 2 million euros, mostly corresponds to the revenue from the land shops in the port area. Consolidated income statement. So the revenue is quite comparable to the last year. Cost of sales is lower, and we come to the costs later on a little bit as well. The marketing and general cost on the same level as last year. The EBITDA is nicely up, but the comparable EBITDA for the 2019 is 153.7 million euros, which is 11 million up from last year, and the comparable EBITDA margin is up from last year 15% to 16.2% this year. So therefore also net profit improvement around 10 million euros. Let's move to next slide, please. Consolidated cash flow statement. So here again, I would focus on the 2019 numbers. So the capital expenditure amounted to 61 million euros. So that involves dockings of 7 vessels mentioned earlier, and then other renovation and development works, also on IT systems and on shore. And this number includes also the first prepayment for the new LNG vessel MyStar in amount of 12.4 million euros. The debt financing totaled 52 million euros, and that includes regular debt repayments in amount of 80 million euros per year, which is quite normal for our company. Then the part of the new 60 million euros revolving credit facility was taken into use. The additions from loans amounted to 45 million, and also there were 15 million euros lease payments. Then interests is nicely down from last year, as the average financing cost has gone down over time, and also the debt levels has come down. The distributions to the shareholders all in all amounted to 80 million euros last year. So this is 5 cents or 33.5 million euros from the dividend, and 7 cents per share, totaling close to 47 million euros, which we can see also in the Q4 dividends and reductions of share capital row. The income tax is higher, as the dividends paid out were in a higher amount. And the change of cash during the year amounted to 43 million euros. Next slide, please. The balance sheet. So at the end of the financial year, the total assets amounted to 1.5 billion euros, out of which most of the assets, of course, are the fixed assets. Around 1.2 billion euros are the ships. Also here we have to mention that the IFRS 16 effect on the year-end numbers. So the fixed assets include from the right of use assets adoption 98 million euros, and also on the liability side, the interest-bearing liabilities include the right of use assets liability side in amount of 102 million euros. Net debt to EBITDA at the year end, very solid, 3.1 times. The net debt at the end of year is 539 million euros. And again, here we have to consider that this amount includes 102 million euros, the IFRS 16 effect. The equity assets ratio is above 50%, which is very solid for the company. And the book value per share at the end of the year was 1.23 euros. Let's move to the next slide, please. Interest-bearing liabilities amounted to 578 million euros, which includes the IFRS 16 effect in amount of 102 million euros, as mentioned. At the same, the long-term bank loans amount to 476 million euros, and that includes 6 loan agreements. All the debt is denominated in euro, and Euribor base rate fixed and floating. The average financing cost on the slide 13 is for last year was 2.19% on the Euribor. Really shortly on the IFRS 16 leases, we have been through these numbers already in previous previous webinars as well, but again, this is important information to know to compare to 2018 numbers. So going forward from 2020 Q1 reporting, the numbers are comparable. Yeah, let's continue. The cost breakdown for last year. So cost of goods sold slightly up, and that relates to the very nice improvement on the restaurant and shop sales. Then the staff cost is slightly up, and is according to our projections. The general salary increases in all the operations. The marketing and administration cost is slightly down. The port and stevedoring cost again is slightly down, and that is mainly related to the lower cargo volumes. Fuel cost saving is close to 13 million euros, and here we benefited from the lower price levels on the global level, but also from the fuel fixings with our main suppliers. Ship operating expenses, again, slightly lower. And here I would refer to very strong cost control and more efficient operations during the last year. On some of the rows, as referred on the footnotes as well, there are for comparability reasons, there are brought some details of the IFRS effects on specific rows. Yep, thank you.
And my name is again Paavo Nõgene. I will give some more information as distributions to shareholders. We have the dividend policy already more than a year right now, where we stated that we paying out at least 5 cents per share if the economic performance enables it. We are proposing this year to pay out 6 cents per share to the shareholders, and this is actually the biggest dividend ever, and from today's share price, of course, there are today and some days already impact from this corona effect in the share prices, but it will be around 6 or 7 cents, 6 or 7% from the share price probably. But to compare it with the last year, just like to state that last year the 7 cent was a capital reduction which wasn't paid from the previous year result. Dividend is paid from the previous year result, and comparing with last year we paid out 5 cents. This year our proposal is 6 cents. And events after the reporting period and outlook. We have agreement with fuel suppliers, and we fixed some amount of portion of our purchasing volumes for 2020 in with very reasonable price, but we will give more information about this in our first quarter report. We docked in first quarter 5 vessels. We made works on our vessels Seawind, Megastar, Romantica, Silja Europa, and Silja Symphony. We made prepayments for MyStar, 61.8 million to be made in 2020, and subject to the coronavirus outbreak could lead some lower demand for passengers from Asia. We have seen so far around 20,000 bookings are cancelled for period February till April, but we all know that ice season from May to September. We have travelers from Asian region around 500,000 passengers. We don't know when this virus case will be ending, and for sure we are working right now with different markets to cover this possible risk if Asian market is this year lower than previous, and we see that during this virus period we can see some increase from our local home markets because the people most probably will travel more to the neighbor countries and more closer from home, so this can also cover possible decrease from Asia.
Yeah, okay. I will now give Harry. We have received some questions on the Burger King, and actually we have a slide about this, and Harry will give a brief overview of the state with the Burger King.
Yes. So last quarter we talked a little bit about Burger King, and we promised to give more information how we are proceeding. So to remember, in 2019 September, we signed agreement with the Burger King and acquired the franchise. We have said we are aiming to build around 50 restaurants across the Baltics in the next 5 years. And right now we also have created the subsidiaries in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The current activity really is preparation to open the first restaurants, including securing the locations, establishing supply lines, logistics, recruiting, and so forth. And today we can say that the first restaurants will be planned to open in Tallinn in April in Rocca al Mare and in May in Ülemiste. Previously, we said that we strive to open the first restaurants during the winter time, but unfortunately, it took a little bit longer to secure the locations, and it takes a little bit longer to build the restaurants. After that, we will open multiple restaurants in Estonia and also in Latvia and Lithuania. And in this year, we can say that we are aiming to open 8 restaurants. And for the next years, we will disclose more information already during the next quarters. But now I will give back to the microphone to Paavo, who will tell a little bit about the developments regarding Linnahall.
Yes, actually very fresh news. Just yesterday we signed memorandum of understanding with City of Tallinn and Infortar. In Tallinn city center, here are the building which is built 1980 for Olympic Games, and actually we have seen from our main office windows already 10 years that it's closed. Government of Estonia and City of Tallinn have tried to found working vision how to renovate this culture heritage building or under the protection of culture heritage, and how to turn it back to life, because just in very attractive place in city of Tallinn, standing one building which are not in use is not very practical. We got end of last year invitation from City of Tallinn, and they asked, are we ready to make a vision and try to find a way how to renovate Tallinn City Hall to become the conference and concert center. We found there a lot synergy between with Tallink, and we made them proposal that we are ready to renovate the Tallinn City Hall only if we can work with all this quarter and also with the areas next to the Tallinn City Hall. Our aim is to build up to 5,000 seats conference and concert center with hotel, shopping and business facilities, restaurants and cafeterias, and with our own Tallink Harbour for Tallinn-Helsinki line vessels, Silja Europa, Megastar, in future MyStar, and we don't know yet what we are going to do with the Star. So, but for Tallinn-Helsinki route passengers, which this gives us approximately after 5 years, when we hope this building is ready, around 6.5 million passengers from the vessels already to this new renovated quarter and center. Plus, of course, there are citizens of Tallinn who are very interested that this building is renovated because it is historically very famous concert hall, and everyone are looking or waiting the possibility to visit Tallinn City Hall again. So our aim is that there will be more than 10 million visitors each year. We signed, as I said, memorandum of understanding. This says that we will establish a joint venture company, 34% City of Tallinn, 33% Tallink Grupp, 33% Infortar. City of Tallinn will give all these lands into this organization, and we will put all together a starting capital 1 million euro. City of Tallinn 340,000, Tallink 330,000, Infortar 330,000. And we started to plan this project to make all the needed analysis. And after all preparations are done and we have all necessary approvals for different authorities, in that moment, City of Tallinn will put into this company the land, and Tallink will put in the capital 10 million euros. We think and we are confident that this will produce and gain extra profit to our shareholders, because if we do this project only because we see it is profitable for Tallink, and the investment is approximately 300 million euros, which is actually in same size as to build one vessel. And we use for this investments our equity and other financial instruments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So this concludes the official presentation part, and now we would address the questions that have been first in the order which came before the presentation, and then the questions which have arrived during the webinar. We have actually already answered the fuel hedge questions, which there were many. Some more information on the details of the fuel price fixing will arrive later. But I would now ask the one of the questions which arrived prior to the webinar about the coronavirus. We discussed, or Paavo explained a bit about how this could have an impact on our operations, but there is also a question of how are you prepared if there is an outbreak in one of your ships, and what would it mean to your business?
Yes. Actually, as I said, of course, we will have impact from this virus. So far, 20,000 bookings, but we'll see what the future brings us. But we have already taken action on board our vessels in January. Actually, this is something we're doing every year because there are different viruses around, norovirus and some flu and some other things. So we are taking care of it each year. And of course, we take care right now even with more attention, but we're sending to our vessels guidance from different authorities with tighter hygiene rules, more cleaning and disinfecting of surfaces, monitoring passengers and crew with possible symptoms, etc., etc. And of course, we work closely with our flag state authorities and follow their guidance. Our vessels have specific epidemic control plans, which we are ready to implement immediately, should we need to, and have a suspected coronavirus case on board. So far, we haven't had any, and as I said before, I am confident that all the world has learned that it is important to isolate the one person who is infected from thousands, not to isolate thousands from one affected. So, which was done by government of Japan to put the quarantine all the vessel, caused actually this, that they did get during this 2-week or 3-week period more than 700 infected persons. So if there are anybody with symptoms, we have our plans how to move on, and we have very good relations with all authorities in different countries we are operating.
Okay, thank you. Next questions would concern the City Hall development, and the first question is, why couldn't only Infortar invest in the City Hall project? Does it make sense for a shipping company to expand its operations to new ventures instead of expanding its shipping operations?
Yeah, I will answer for that. I think it's actually ideal world where we can really see that shipping company whose main hub is right now Tallinn can have own harbor. It will be beneficial to us in many ways. And of course, we see that owning and operating the harbor where we usually need to pay a lot harbor different fees, we can hopefully do it more efficient way, and all this money will be invested to our operations.
Thank you. Furthermore questions on the City Hall. What kind of return on investment are you expecting? Should we even expect any return? Are you going to sell your stake or hold it? And are you going to stay as an owner and get rental income, or what should we expect?
Right now, we can say that we know that estimated investment is around 300 million euros. This is a very new project to us. Now we going to make we and the City of Tallinn going to make some more deeper analysis, and we are going to establish a company who will go and run this new investment. We are not going to give today out any guidance what will be the return of investment, but for sure to build a harbor, which is our main interest in this. This is investment for next 50 or 100 years. It's not investment for 5 years. So we for sure know that this return of investment period is investment is for longer period, but we see that the profitability can come actually if everything goes well, not in very far future. So this is calculated this way that it will be the benefit for the Tallink shareholders. Regarding the operations, current plan is to operate all these activities by Tallink Grupp. But of course, during the period, we're going more deeply into the different topics, there can come up some other versions as well.
Okay. Next question. What is driving the restaurant and shop sales? Any particular routes, onboard or offshore sales? How do you expect it to develop in 2020?
Yeah, I will take this question. So we did quite a lot of investments during the past year, and many of these investments went directly to rebuilding restaurants, making the shops more efficient, and this is actually, as a company whose most of our revenue, over 50% of our revenue comes from shops and restaurant sales. It's everyday work to improve the offering, to select the right products, to give the best quality. So we do expect this to improve in the future as well. But obviously, every year we also need to invest into these public areas and restaurants. Many of the big investments are done, but as usual, this year I think we see 5 ships going to dockings, and then during these dockings also some of the public areas will get the necessary attention.
Thank you. What are the elements you expect to contribute positively and negatively to your profits in 2020?
Different aspects. Let's say that as we have talked already about this coronavirus, which is currently going around already in the Europe, we don't know what kind will be this impact for the travel. But as I said, most probably we'll see increase from our home markets, that people traveling more in the Baltic Sea region and not going maybe away far away from the home. So we hope that this will cover possible decrease from other regions. Positively, as we said, we fixed some amount of fuel for 2020 in very reasonable price, and this most probably will give us a good positive impact. But all the other factors, as last year also, the cargo market is kind of tricky. It's like between Estonia and Finland, kind of flat. So there are no increase in the amounts of cargo units, but all the competitors fighting to get cargo units to their vessels. There are some slight decrease in Finland-Sweden route due to different strikes in Finland. So we can't see any more very big impacts right now, but of course we are ready for different challenges, and as you can see also from the result of 2019, that even with the same revenue we can improve our profitability, and we do our best to keep it that way.
Thank you. There's a question. You mentioned that your earnings in 2019 were burdened by a non-recurring cost of 2.4 million euros. When did this cost take in place?
Q1.
Thank you. Next question, which has not been answered yet, is what kind of maintenance capex should we expect in 2020, down from 2019?
Most probably yes, but yes, we have 5 docks. Last year we had 7. Yes, it will be most probably slightly down, but it all differs what kind of work you need to do on these exact vessels, because we all, due to the regulations, each vessel need to go to the dock twice during the 5-year period, and the different works are plan to do in different periods. So it's it's not higher, it will be slightly lower. So we don't see any increase there.
Talking about docks, there's a question about what will be the total number of days of dockings in 2020 by route?
Yeah, from top of my head, I don't know the exact number. We have the docking plan, and it's I mean business as usual. We have set the number of dockings and we have the docking calendar, but I guess we will try to be prepared in the next quarter for with this.
But all the dockings are less than 14 days, so we don't have such kind of 44 days dock as we had last year with Baltic Queen, except Sea Wind, which were in dock 3 weeks in January because there were some more works to do because of Sea Wind is our legend and lady getting already soon 50 years old, so there were some extra works to be done to operate the next 5 years at least.
Thank you. Next question. What is the extent of supply chain dependency on China for non-fuel related purchases?
Right now, we don't see any impact yet. We have asked our duty-free people to work with this case already 1 month from now, and I know that we have bought to our stock in some products which can be affected situation which is going on in China. So we hope we are enough well prepared, but we don't have yet any problems with the supply chain.
Okay. Q4 18 report put the number of passengers on Finland Sweden in December 2018 at 240,037. Q4 19 report put the number of the same month at 236,512. Which one is correct and why was there a difference in the first place?
We have to check the numbers if there is actually any confusion or a mistake. Obviously, only one number can be right, but unfortunately, we cannot do this right now live. So we will, after the conference, go over and then see if there has been any error done.
Okay, thank you. What is the annual expenditure on port and stevedoring costs and passenger fees paid to Tallinna Sadam for Tallinn-Helsinki route? Is 20 million euros in the ballpark?
It's approximately 20 million euros.
What is the expected capital expenditure towards food chain expansion in 2020? What sort of one-off marketing and other expenses should we expect?
I think that the question is based on the Burger King. We plan to open this year at least 8 restaurants in the Baltic countries, and this capex is not very high. So most probably it will be less than 4 million euros, but depends of size of each restaurant. We can't right now say out where exactly other restaurants are coming will be built, so we will give this information in the next quarters.
Thank you. Next question. Why are you planning to venture into real estate, a sector where you have no expertise? What is the synergy benefits with existing business?
As I said also before that we are a shipping company and to own the harbor in the middle center of the capital where is our hub is privileged. We need to use this opportunity if we have possibility to build our own harbor, and we see huge synergy also with this other activities we are going to build in this region, and we are a company who is depending a lot from tourism, and to bring Estonian tourism to the next level or next step, Estonia needs international conference center like a fresh air. So to really bring more tourists into Tallinn, this investment benefits all tourism organizations in Estonia and of course also Tallink. And to talk about the shopping and business area, in this center, we have our competitive advantage that we have 6.5 million customers already on board who are going to visit this news center. So this gives us different possibilities to use the synergy and turn it into the revenue and later to the profit.
Thank you. How do you intend to finance the high capital expenditure for the real estate project at a time when your debt will be increasing from investments in MyStar and upgrades? What is the maximum net debt EBITDA you are comfortable with?
Well, we have said that the net debt to EBITDA level Tallink is comfortable with is between 3 and 5 times. And right now we are at 3.1, so we are definitely in the lower scale, and we are paying debt still back quite aggressively, around 100 million euros per year. So when we get to the MyStar investment and this will be MyStar loan agreement, this will be when the ship actually arrives. We will have a very good position of that level.
Another question on investments. How much capital expenditure do you plan to spend on Burger King franchise store rollouts? When will it start, and what are the financial projections of revenue and profits?
Yes, well, it's not an easy question because of the way the different restaurants will be built. Because if we get a rental agreement, we don't need to use much capex. If we build a Burger King, for example, to a shopping center, then we already have most of the infrastructure in place, and we just need to do the capital investment into the kitchen equipment, furniture, and so forth. This is mainly what we do in this first phase of the first restaurants that we right now are building. But at some point, we will get to the freestanding restaurants that will have a drive-in and then require land. So in some cases, we may be able to rent this. In some cases, maybe we need to buy the land. And that's why it's very, very complicated question to answer. It will not be a significant number, but I hope we can give a little bit better projection in the next quarters. Right now, our effort is to open the first restaurants as quickly as possible, and after that, we will get a much better understanding.
Thanks. Some more questions on the City Hall project. Is the building of a harbour included in the budget of 300 million euros?
Yes.
Another one regarding the City Hall traffic solution. Is your assumption that the city-state will make the necessary investment, or would you be willing to commit own capital as well? How the about 300 million euros?
This is question about the traffic, I understand. Traffic solution, some part of the traffic solution is included into this project budget. If the City of Tallinn like to make some changes, make something different, and it's going over our budgeted number, then this is a different project which is run by the City of Tallinn.
how the expected investment of 300 million euros will distribute between the port and the rest of the building?
It's too early to say it. We need to wait some other calculations and analyses we need to do also in below the water.
Talking about below the water, the next question about the city hall is that is the hall deep enough to accommodate your cruise vessels, and who will take care of the port facilities and services?
Port facilities and services will be our own company who is taking care, and as I said, we are going to do some extra analysis under the water, but we have estimations already now. We need to do some work there, but actually the harbor is existing harbor there next to the Tallinn City Hall. We need to make it bigger to be comfortable for our vessels, but actually juridically the harbor is there, and we are going to build it bigger.
Then that concludes the city hall questions. A couple more questions on the Asian travelers and coronavirus impact. So the questions are: which route would be most impacted by the absence of Asian travelers in the high season, and what is the average monthly cost of increased passenger control and cleaning disinfection?
As I said, regarding the disinfection, we're doing it every day. First quarter every year it is having our full attention, because the coronavirus is just one virus. We have each year challenges with noroviruses, flu, and other things. So we have this in our budget every year, and we haven't seen right now any increase of it yet. The question about which route would be most impacted, it's a bit difficult to say. If you're talking only about the possible Asians cancelling the trips, I can say that most probably money-wise it will be the Helsinki-Stockholm. Pax-wise it will be the Helsinki-Tallinn. But if we have more space for people living in Scandinavia and Helsinki-Stockholm route, we can turn it also somehow as a plus. So it's difficult to say when they planning to cancel, if they cancel, and it gives more free spaces for the people living here in our neighbor countries.
Thank you. And the very last question is, could you please repeat what was the date of fixing fuel expenses in 2020, or the level at which the price was fixed? And I'll answer this myself, that we said that we will give more detailed information on the fuel price fixing in later reports. So thank you everyone for lasting almost an hour through the presentation and questions. The recording and the presentation will be available after the webinar shortly, but this now concludes the webinar, and we would really like to thank you all for participating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.